You've heard about the armor of God your whole life. The helmet, the breastplate, the sword, you know the drill. But what if the way most of us have been taught to think about the armor is incomplete? Maybe even a little bit wrong. What if it's not just a passive defensive shield, but a set of powerful offensive weapons designed for taking the fight to the enemy? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the radical truths about Paul's spiritual weapons that often get glossed over in church, and I'll show you how to actually wield them against the darkness you face every single day. Let's be honest, life can feel like a battle. And I don't just mean the daily grind, I'm talking about something deeper. That nagging anxiety that whispers, "You're not good enough." That one temptation that seems to have your number. That cloud of confusion or despair you just can't seem to shake. We usually label these as psychological issues or just a string of bad luck. But the Apostle Paul tells us what's really going on. In his letter to the Ephesians, he's crystal clear. He says, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers of this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places." That's not a metaphor for a bad day. Paul is describing a real active spiritual war. He's showing us that behind many of our tangible struggles are intelligent, malicious spiritual forces trying to steal our peace, kill our faith, and destroy our witness. These are the darkest forces we face, not monsters under the bed, but the subtle whispers of doubt, the sophisticated lies of our culture, and the crushing weight of condemnation. And if you show up to a war without your weapons, you're going to become a casualty. This is where a lot of teaching on the subject just stops, and it feels terrifying, but Paul doesn't leave us there. Right after revealing the enemy, he reveals the strategy for victory. He says, "Therefore, put on the full armor of God, so that you may be able to stand your ground on the evil day, and having done everything, to stand firm." Notice where the armor comes from. It's the armor of God. This isn't something we can whip up ourselves through self-improvement or positive thinking. It is divine weaponry, forged in heaven, and given to us freely. Paul's main command isn't to fight harder in our own strength, but to be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. The victory was already won at the cross. Our job is to stand in that victory, dressed in the gear God himself provides. So let's stop treating this armor like a dusty museum piece. It's time to unsheath these weapons and learn how to actually use them. The common teaching is that this just means don't lie. And while being an honest person is great, that totally misses the power of this foundational piece. Here's the truth. A Roman soldier's belt, or cingulum, held everything together. It's where he hung his sword and other tools. Without the belt, everything else was clumsy and ineffective. The belt of truth isn't just about telling the truth, it's about being held together by the truth. It's wrapping your whole life around the unchanging reality of who God is and who you are in him. The enemy's main strategy is deception. He's called the father of lies after all. He whispers, "You're a failure, God has forgotten you, you'll never be free." Wielding this weapon means you fight back. When the lie of worthlessness attacks, you tighten that belt and declare, "No, the truth is I'm a child of God, fearfully and wonderfully made." This belt is your foundation. Without it, the rest of the armor just falls apart. The common teaching is that this means do good deeds and live a moral life. Again, a good thing. But if that's all it is, we're in big trouble because our own righteousness is full of holes. The radical truth is that this is not your righteousness, it's the righteousness of Christ, given to you as a gift the moment you trust in him. A soldier's breastplate guarded his vital organs, especially his heart. Spiritually, the enemy aims his attacks of accusation, shame, and condemnation right at your heart, your identity and worth. He loves to replay your greatest hits of sins and mistakes. So when that arrow of accusation flies, you don't defend yourself by listing all the good things you did this week. You hold up the breastplate of Christ's righteousness and say, "I may have failed, but I am not a failure. I'm covered by the perfection of Jesus. My standing with God is based on his performance, not mine." It protects your heart from the kill shot of condemnation so you can fight on with confidence. The common teaching is that this just means be ready to go share the gospel. It's often framed as a missionary task. The radical truth is way more personal and empowering. Roman soldiers wore special sandals called calligi that were studded with nails like cleats. They weren't for comfort, they were for stability, allowing a soldier to stand his ground in the mud and chaos of battle without slipping. This readiness of the gospel of peace is about the stability that the good news gives you. It's the unshakable confidence that you are at peace with God because of Jesus. In a world of chaos and anxiety, the gospel is your solid ground. It's what allows you to both stand firm when under attack and to advance without losing your footing. So when life is spinning and your heart is racing with anxiety, you plant your feet. You remind yourself that your sin is forgiven, your future is secure, and you're reconciled with the Creator of the universe. That peace gives you the stability to weather any storm. The common teaching is that faith is just an invisible feeling. If you just believe harder, bad things won't happen. This reduces one of our most powerful weapons to wishful thinking. The radical truth is that Paul was referencing the Roman scutum, a massive, 4-foot-tall, curved shield that could protect the entire body. These were often soaked in water before battle to extinguish the enemy's flaming arrows. And, crucially, they were designed to lock together with other soldiers' shields to form an impenetrable wall called the testudo formation. Your faith isn't just a private feeling, it's an active defense. It's your trust in God's specific promises and His character. Paul says it can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. These arrows are targeted attacks, a dart of fear, a fiery arrow of lust, a burning missile of doubt.
Wielding this weapon is something you do. When an arrow of fear about your future flies at you, you actively raise the shield by declaring, "No, I trust in the God who holds my future."
And you don't stand alone. You lock shields with other believers in community and prayer, creating a wall of faith the enemy can't get through. The common teaching is that the helmet is simply about remembering you're saved and going to heaven one day. It's often treated as a past event. The radical truth is that a helmet protects the head, your mind. Spiritual warfare is psychological warfare. The enemy's battleground is your thought life. He wants to sow despair and hopelessness. The helmet of salvation is all about the confident hope of your final victory. It's the absolute assurance of your future deliverance that protects your mind from despair in the present. Putting on this helmet means you guard your mind. When thoughts like "this is hopeless" or "I'm trapped" start to spiral, you put on the helmet by fixing your mind on your ultimate hope.
You declare, "This struggle is temporary. My circumstances don't define my destiny. My ultimate salvation is secure. And this battle is just one chapter in a story that ends in total victory."
This helmet protects you from the mental blows that can take a soldier out of the fight. The common teaching is simply to know your Bible. People picture a huge, heavy broadsword, but the radical truth is the Greek word here is machaira. This wasn't a giant broadsword, it was the Roman soldier's personal short double-edged dagger used for precise, close-quarters offensive combat. This is your weapon of attack. The sword of the Spirit is the Word of God, not just the whole book but the right verse, spoken at the right time to counter a specific lie. Jesus modeled this perfectly. When Satan tempted him, he didn't just say, "I know the Bible." For each specific lie, he unsheathed the precise verse that cut right to the heart of it. Wielding this weapon means having the word ready in the chamber. When attacked with a lie of loneliness, you counterattack with the machaira of Hebrews 13:5. God has said, "I will never leave you nor forsake you." When hit with temptation, you strike back. This is an offensive weapon. It's how you drive the enemy back. So we have these 6 powerful pieces of armor. But Paul adds one more thing that many people read right over. It's the secret that powers up the whole suit. After listing all 6 pieces, he says, praying at all times in the Spirit with all prayer and supplication. Prayer isn't a 7th piece of armor. Prayer is the power source. It's the spiritual breathing that keeps the soldier alive. It's the open comms link to the general. You can be fully dressed, but if you aren't communicating with command, you're isolated and powerless. Prayer is what energizes the belt, polishes the breastplate, and directs the sword. Putting on the armor without prayer is like a soldier getting dressed for battle and then never reporting for duty. It's through prayer that we get our marching orders and the strength to wield these weapons effectively. The armor of God is not a passive uniform for a Sunday service. It's a set of divinely engineered weapons for active combat in a very real war. It's time to stop leaving your gear behind. Every morning, you have a choice. You can walk out onto the battlefield unarmed, vulnerable to the lies, accusations, and fears of the enemy. Or you can consciously and prayerfully put on the full armor of God. Secure the belt of truth, guard your heart with His righteousness, stand firm on the gospel of peace, lift the shield of faith, protect your mind with the helmet of salvation, and unsheathe the sword of the Spirit to fight back. This is your inheritance as a believer. This is how you don't just survive but actually thrive, how you don't just stand your ground but advance against the darkness. So here's my challenge to you. In the comments below, tell me which one of these truths about the armor hit you the hardest, and which piece you're going to focus on wielding this week. And if you know someone who feels like they're in a battle right now, share this with them. It might be exactly what they need to hear. Don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Now, go and stand firm.